Welcome, everyone. As people join, feel free to make your way over to the right-hand side, and some up here in the front. There are definitely still seats. If you prefer to stand, all the more power to you, but there are seats if you like. So, thank you so much for joining us here today. To 1 o'clock, Expo East, at least the show floor, just opened three hours ago at 10 o'clock. I really appreciate you guys making the walk over from the convention center to join us for this today. I did manage to sneak out to the show floor a little bit myself, and every time I come to Expo East or Expo West, I'm really connected to the excitement and the passion that this industry represents. And I wanted to thank all of you for being a part of it. I think it's a special thing that we're all involved in. The energy, the excitement, the connection, the optimism are all things that I think make this industry so unique, as well as the opportunity. The opportunity that the mainstreaming of the natural products industry represents for us is really an incredible and a special thing. So I hope that we can return the favor and help you guys out today. I hope that we can help you. I hope maybe the ideas that we share with you in our trends presentation may inspire you. I hope that the data that we share with you may help support a business decision that you need to make, or at least I hope that we can satisfy your curiosity about what's next for natural and organic. On stage with me today is Deanna Polgaros. Both of us work for New Hope Network, the host of Natural Products Expos East and West, as well as the publisher for many of the trade journals serving your businesses and our industry together. My name is Eric Pierce. I'm Director of Business Insights with Next, the Data and Insights Division of New Hope Network. And to get us started today, I wanted to ask Deanna to share with you some of the big ideas that really led to the analysis that we're going to share with you today. Lots of data, lots of interesting trend insights, some examples of really exciting products that you might see out on the show floor or that you might be familiar with in the industry. But behind all of that is an opportunity and a little bit of a watch out that we think this data and this analysis will help you use to focus your energies, but also our energies as an industry at large. Deanna?
So this year at Expo East, we have, I think, around 1,450 exhibitors. About 380 of them are brand new to the show, and many of those are young entrepreneurial brands making their Expo East debut. So there is a lot happening in our industry right now, and it's hard to imagine that natural foods and natural health products and home products were once kind of relegated to the fringes of the CPG industry, and it was kind of a very niche thing. And today we know that CPG companies of all kinds are really recognizing that some of the values that have really driven the natural products industry, like responsible sourcing, transparency, sustainability, and stewardship, are really the way forward. And so we've seen several examples of that already this year. We just saw Sweet Earth, a plant-based food company that exhibits here, get acquired last week by Nestle, of course, Whole Foods and Amazon. So we're seeing this come to life in many different ways, but we've arrived at really a pivot point for our industry, one where we can really have great potential to grow, but we think that the way forward for our industry is to really maintain a very strong focus on our values and the purpose that has driven our industry this far. So we have more opportunity now than ever to scale. We have growing interest from consumers, we have an availability of capital that this industry has never seen before, and we have interest from new business partners who are really looking to us to lead the way. So a huge opportunity for us to spread our values and to really make an impact on how business is done. But with the opportunity to scale, of course, there's opportunities to cut corners or to stray a little bit from the values that we've been built on. So as we work to integrate all of our new business partners, Eric and I really kind of want this presentation to convey that the way forward, we think, is really to focus on maintaining our authenticity and our values, because that's such a big part of why all of these new business partners are really looking to us right now. So today, we are going to focus our presentation on data that we have gathered from progressive natural products consumers. So these are people who articulate values related to environment, to social purpose, to transparency, to nutrition, because we think there is still a tremendous amount of growth potential for our industry among these progressive consumers. So what we're going to share with you today is a glimpse into some of the forces and the trends that are shaping the growth of our industry with a very specific eye towards those progressive consumers who are really share the most values with our industry. So Eric's going to tell you a little bit more about them in just 1 second. But to set the stage for this presentation, we want to show you kind of the framework of our analysis. So all of the trends and forces that we're going to be talking about today come from something called the Next Forecast. So this is a project of New Hope Network and our partners at the Sterling Rice Group. So what we did was our teams came together with data, with insights, with industry interviews, case studies, and products to really put together an insider's guide to where the natural products market is right now and where it's headed. So in the Next Forecast, we identified 3 cultural forces that we're going to be talking about today. Within those cultural forces are 13 macro forces, and then beneath all of those macro forces, you can't really see it on this chart, but are the trends that we're going to be touching on. So we're going to kind of skip over that middle level, the macro forces, and talk mostly about the cultural forces and the trends. But when you hear us say those words, that's what we're talking about.
Great. Thanks, Tiana. So again, as we pursue all these incredible opportunities that the scaling and the growth of our industry represents, there is this risk, right? There is this risk as we move fast to capitalize on opportunities that we potentially begin to cut corners if we don't remember to stay focused on our authenticity and our values. And so the values analysis is really part of the exciting part of the results that we have today. I want to share with you a little bit about the methodology and give you some context to understand how we did this analysis and how to interpret it before we get into the results, but we'll try and get there fairly quickly. Today, we're going to explore natural and organic product trends through the lens of, again, progressive consumers. This particular analysis was designed to help us identify what are the trends that products and entrepreneurs and retailers are helping to create in the marketplace. What are the product trends that are most relevant among the progressive consumer that we might think of as our core consumer for the natural products industry? The great news is that the results of this analysis, a quantitative analysis, reveals that many of the trends that resonate most with these progressive consumers are really values-based trends, things that resonate with consumers beyond just functional or performance-oriented benefits, but they're really sort of values-oriented themes. So in order to do this analysis, we had to leverage several tools. Deanna told you briefly about the Next Forecast tool, which is sort of our look at the world of how trends are manifesting and how that rolls up from products to trends to cultural macro forces and then cultural forces. But we also needed a way to quantify that and to begin to understand the analysis. So in order to do that, we're going to leverage 2 other tools. We're going to leverage the New Hope Consumer Segmentation Tool and Next Concept Lab in order to fuel this analysis. The New Hope consumer segmentation is an important thing to understand, so we're going to take a minute telling you about who these progressive consumers are. In order to support the continued growth of the natural and organic products industry, we thought it was important at New Hope to make sure that we as an industry understood consumers and their orientation towards the natural products industry. In order to help get that understanding, we set out to do a quantitative research study among US consumers representing the broad US population. You see here what we did is we interviewed over 5,000 US consumers in a quantitative survey. We carefully and meticulously sampled those consumers to ensure that they represented the whole US population, the entire buying population from age 18 to 80 plus. And what we did is we asked them a lot of questions about their feelings, their attitudes, their behaviors, all related to things like nutrition and lifestyle and healthy products. The outcome of this market research effort was a segmentation designed to deliver nuanced understanding of consumer attitudes as it relates to our industry, as well as insights to help inform segmented marketing and advertising strategies, also to help us identify early adopters and sort of core consumers that might resonate with our products, but also to facilitate the concept testing I'll tell you about in a minute, where we're able to link up concept testing then to the consumer segmentation to see what ideas born out of the natural products industry resonate with consumers. So again, we're going to focus today on 2 consumer segments from the segmentation analysis that represent the greatest opportunity for scaling the natural products industry, for scaling your brands and your businesses. Together, these 2 segments, I think it's exciting, they represent 44% of the US population. So when we spoke to the entire population, we identified 3 segments of consumers that kind of look like our typical mainstream consumers, and 2 segments that represent a significant sort of lean towards natural and organic. That's the exciting part. When we think about our industry representing just about 20% of all food and beverage sales at this point, I think we're hovering around 17% or so right now, now, what we can see is we've got meaningful opportunity from a dollar sales perspective all the way up to 44% of the US population that are interested. We're converting those consumers occasion by occasion and purchase by purchase to what I think is going to be a real significant opportunity in the near future. So the two segments we're going to tell you about today that are our progressive consumers that we tell you about are the Chief Health Officers and the Young Forever segment. So first, let's get to know the Chief Health Officers real quickly. This is kind of your stereotypical whole food shopper. When you think about who the natural and organic consumer is, this is probably the segment that most reflects that. These consumers are informed, goal-oriented health managers. They're label readers. They know what they're looking for, and they know what to look for, right? They pay more, they try more, they are engaged in healthy products, and they're committed to protecting the environment. So they're concerned about personal health, but also social and environmental issues. They are a key influencer in the industry. Their unique combination of proactive health management, along with their propensity to share their opinions and their desire to stay current on the most important health topics out there, make them a great vehicle for endorsement and recommendation within our industry. The segment that you might not necessarily realize is an important opportunity for us is the one that I can't get, there it is, up on the slide now, is the Young Forever segments, right? These consumers are not necessarily the consumer you think about when you think of Whole Foods. Instead, they are slightly more male. They are slightly younger. These are consumers that are also committed, early adopters who are on a quest for healthy eating. What makes them a little bit different than our Chief Health Officer consumer is their primary motivation for engaging in our category is their concern about getting old, feeling old, or looking old. These consumers are driven by this desire to feel younger, stay younger, and to be healthy in the process. They try new products often, and they follow the crowd. So they also move around a fair bit. They're not necessarily as committed as our Chief Health Officers, but they understand the benefits, they trust the category, and they want to try your products. Today, we're going to combine the Chief Health Officers and the Young Forever segments in our analysis to represent, again, these progressive consumers with the greatest opportunity. They represent the greatest opportunity for your brands. They're already predisposed consumers, but also the opportunity for us to scale and to continue to grow this industry. So these are our progressive consumers whose needs, values, beliefs, and behaviors we need to keep in mind as we scale our industry with focus on authenticity, on values, and doing business responsibly. Using the next tool here is to tell you briefly about our Concept Lab tool, right? So we've got the segmentation, we've got the trend analysis book, and now we have where the rubber meets the road in terms of figuring out which products and trends are most likely to succeed in the marketplace. In order to do that, what we've done is we've taken our Next Trend Concept tool to allow us to better understand the opportunities. This tool was designed for the natural products industry, big players and small players alike. It was designed to help companies like yours assess quickly and quantitatively whether a new product idea has potential in the marketplace. It was designed to test early stage concepts to determine what's its chance of success in marketplace, why it may or may not succeed, and who, thinking our segmentation here, who's most likely to buy our product. Every month, we test 40 new concepts in our database. We tested among 1,000 consumers, 1,000 consumers that look just like the consumers in our segmentation, representative of the whole US population, and we asked just a couple of key metrics. We did this so that we could keep it very efficient and very focused, and we can keep the price down for anyone who wants to use it. What we assess is cultural relevance and personal relevance for each one of these concepts. The cultural relevance we're going to refer to today as our market prediction score. It's effectively a probability of success score for a new product idea. The beauty of this is what it does is it leverages the wisdom of the crowd to ask consumers, do you think this is relevant to other consumers? Regardless of whether you're gluten-free or eating a vegan or a plant-based diet, do you think this particular idea is of relevance to others? They can draw upon anything that they're reading in the news, that they're seeing on social media, or maybe they saw on Entertainment Weekly some celebrity picking up a new diet. Whatever cultural context they have, they use to evaluate, is this a good idea? Again, regardless of whether I like gluten-free myself. The personal relevance comes with this purchase intent score that we're going to talk about today. Would you yourself buy this? So what we're going to be able to do is assess cultural relevance for a new idea and personal relevance for a new idea. When you see it on the slides today, it's going to come across as purchase intent and market prediction. All the results that we have from testing over 3 years live in a database that now has over 1,300 concepts in it that we can use to help companies better understand the potential for their products in the marketplace, but also to fuel this sort of analysis. So in this analysis, we took this one at the time, about 1,000 concepts that we had in the database. We went through every single one and we coded them against the trends in the next forecast tool so that we could then quantify and figure out which groups of products bundled into trends have the greatest potential in the marketplace. Again, you're going to see market prediction today. Just as context, you're going to see a lot of scores. Anything in our database that is a 75 or higher is a very strong probability of success in the market. You'll see some that reach into the 80s and 90s, and these are very, very strong concepts. On a purchase intent level, we ask people simply yes or no, would you buy this yourself? We don't ask on a 5-point scale, so the numbers might look a little bit different than what you might be familiar with if you've done other concept testing. Anything that scores a 16-point or higher score on purchase intent scores within the top 20% of all concepts we've tested in our database to date. The range is between 1 and 38%. So as we show you the results today, actually Deanna's going to show you in just a second. We're getting vast methodology now to actual results. You're going to see the results on 2 different dimensions, right? You're going to see on our horizontal axis, probability of success, those that are further to the right on the screen are our higher probability of success trends, and the ones that rise up to the top of the page is our purchase intent score, ones with high personal relevance for consumers. Deanna.
Okay. So we're going to start with just kind of a high-level look at our analysis. So as Eric kind of explained, we coded the concepts to match certain trends in the forecast so we could come up with aggregate scores for each trend. And so what you're seeing on this plot diagram here is a map of our trends. So each dot here represents one trend. The size of the dot represents how many concepts fell into that trend. So the bigger dots have more concept scores included. The smaller dots have fewer concept scores. And then where it lands on the chart depends on the average score among our progressive consumers. So the x-axis here represents the market prediction score, and the y-axis here represents the purchase intent score. So you'll see our top performers are up there in the upper right-hand quadrant. And those are the ones we are really going to focus on today. So you do see some in the bottom left-hand quadrant. And that doesn't mean that those are bad trends or that we shouldn't talk about them. But some trends require certain education, or maybe they're just not quite gaining momentum in the marketplace yet, or they're more niche. So really today we're going to focus on those in the top right-hand quadrant. Oh, sorry, I missed that. So when we were looking at our top performing trends in purchase intent and market prediction score, we really noticed that the highest performing trends among our progressive consumers were really associated and represented 4 values: environment, social purpose, transparency, and convenient nutrition. So these are the top 12 trends that we found from our analysis. And we are going to touch on 8 of them today, but I did want to show you all 12 of them just so you have them. So waste not, want not, that one refers to pulling waste out of the waste stream and potentially upcycling ingredients that would be wasted into something new. The second one is feed me, so that refers to the need to feed a growing population with limited resources. Our third one is collaboration economy, so we're seeing a lot of companies working together, which is really great. Number 4 is speed scratch. 5, lean, green, and waste stream. That's talking about efficiency kind of in the production of food. Number 6, regeneration. So we're talking about agriculture here, regenerative agriculture, and being stewards of the soil and the earth. The purposeful brand. We're going to dig actually deeper into that one in just a minute. The continued rise of local, putting a face on our food system. So this is kind of more brands really trying to connect the consumer to the farmers that are actually growing their food. Number 9, I already did that one. Number 10, smoothie love, environmental expectations, and the verified brand. So again, we're going to dive into 8 of these.
All right, so let's talk first about the cultural awakening. So as we mentioned before, we have our cultural forces, macro forces, and trends. So this is kind of broad context, if you will, for the first trend that we'll share with you in just a minute. The cultural awakening, cultural force really has to do with this idea that I think is almost at the foundation of the growth of the natural products industry, and it's the awakening consumer and the awakening business. The world in some ways is waking up, becoming more aware, becoming more educated, and it's beginning to change everything. Our first cultural force really has to do with the growth of consumer and business awakening as a force that is shaping innovation and growth within this industry, but also the evolution of the natural products industry. The awakening, as I mentioned, has been building momentum for decades, but the recent acceleration, almost the tipping point that we've reached as an industry, seems to be driven by an accumulation of things like the evolution of social media, internet, and ease of access to information, the millennial generation growing up with access to information sort of at their fingertips, environmental as well as cultural and technological forces all converging at the same time to facilitate this greater sense of awareness and consciousness that we see among businesses and consumers, fueled, if you will, by this growing consumer demand and this opportunity and this renewed awareness among consumers, is driving demand driving the emergence, if you will, of socially minded entrepreneurs, destined to or taking on the mission of changing the world by changing the status quo, right? These are conscious businesses that are consciously practicing and redefining business in a way that is creating opportunity in the marketplace to do more good through business. Whether that's regenerating the land in our communities that provide our food, or helping us increase access to healthy food to more and more consumers, or helping us reestablish systems that ensure equity and diversity and equitable pay within our food system. Today's awakened business leaders and entrepreneurs are proving that business can be a force for good. We'll show you within this trend the idea that conscious consumption, macro force, as well as some of the trends that come within it. And we're going to show you in just a minute the first of our trends that we talked about, that Deanna talked about just a minute ago. What I'm going to do, though, for the next most of these slides, other than some of these broader cultural sort of slides, is we're going to show you an individual trend, describe what it is for you, show you some products that performed well within our concept lab, and how it performed among these more progressive consumers. So you get an idea of not only the trend, but kind of how it's coming to life in terms of products. A really important caveat, because we do concept testing for clients, it's also important to understand that when we do 40 tests a month, probably 30 of those are concepts that we're putting into the database. Everything I'm going to show you today are ones that we've tested on our own. I'm not sharing with you any proprietary sort of client ideas or concepts. Instead, these are things that we see out on the show floor that come across our editors' desks that we think is representative of the trends and the things that are going on in the marketplace.
All right. So the first trend we're going to touch on is the purposeful brand, and this falls under the cultural awakening or cultural force that Eric just talked about. So purposeful brands have aligned with a social cause, and not just in the sense that they maybe donate money to a nonprofit, but in the sense that their purpose, they were built as a company to rectify some kind of problem. And that's something that consumers feel really good about supporting. So fair trade certification might be just kind of one example, one long-standing example of how a brand would represent that they have a social mission. But today, that's really just the start. We're seeing kind of a whole new generation of social brands coming out. So here's a look at a few high-performing concepts that we tested. And remember, we were just testing these concepts, and we're giving you brands and products that represent those concepts. So this first one here is dried fruit from Soul Simple. This is a company that has a mission to connect conscientious consumers with smallholder farms. So they hire and train and empower people from marginalized communities in Nicaragua. So a strong social mission there. And again, with this middle company, this was founded by the former cocoa director of Hershey's, who moved his family to Mozambique to start this company, which they built a factory that employs adult orphans and donates 90% of its profits to projects in those communities. This third brand here, Movino Harvest, was founded by a Peace Corps volunteer in one of the poorest regions of the world. They use harvest fruit that was not sold, dry it, and have created a market for it in the US. So three really strong examples of purposeful brands that performed really high among our progressive consumers.
Great. So let's talk about environmental expectations, right? Important to consumers today, of growing importance, is issues related to climate and the environment. I think that what's really important to understand here today is that the typical corporate responsibility report, where so often companies have kind of hidden or put sort of their sense of obligation for being responsible business stewards and responsible environmental stewards, is not really cutting it anymore, right? In some ways that was fluff, or maybe it was an acknowledgement to an industry community. What we're seeing increasingly now is that consumers are beginning to expect or demand, or at very least appreciate, and set apart those companies that make a part of their business their commitment to the environment. So again, not a side business or not an acknowledgement of something that they're doing, but really building a business around the idea of being a good environmental steward. Today's shoppers are looking for brands that take proactive action to help protect the environment. Well, it's really interesting. We just completed some research at New Hope that looks at the expectations about brands and what consumers are willing to pay for brands that exhibit environmental sort of responsibility. And what we're seeing when we cut the data by generation, we're just seeing the millennials and younger consumers are really thinking differently in many ways about environment relative to boomers and Xers. So while it is the boomers and Xers that have really started and created the momentum within our culture behind environmental and social issues, today, the millennials who grew up with this idea as commonplace, who grew up with the idea of recycling kind of as a norm rather than an exception, who grew up with climate change concerns as a commonplace conversation, they're the ones that are now poised to drive environmental concerns deep into commerce. They are the ones that are giving our brands an opportunity to differentiate ourselves and set ourselves apart based on how we orient ourselves to the environment. So the market is evolving and consumers are engaging differently and they have expectations and there's opportunities for us to differentiate. 3 brands on the page here that are resonating well among our progressive consumers and who are demonstrating why this performs so well in our testing are companies like Bear with their snacks and their carbon neutral manufacturing facilities, Quinn Popcorn, who launched the first compostable microwave popcorn bag, or Method that set themselves apart a couple years ago when they launched their biodegradable soap with packaging that was being derived from plastic that was being pulled out of, recovered, if you will, from the ocean, right? So very, very innovative ideas, and when we test these among consumers, you can see the probability of success is very high, and so is our purchase intent scores. Again, most of these performing in the top 20% of over 1,000 concepts that we have in our database based on their commitment and their branding orientation to environmental issues.
The third trend we're going to talk about is waste not, want not. So this is one of my favorites to talk about because it's so interesting to see how brands are coming up with new solutions to lower the amount of waste that we're producing. So public awareness of our food waste problem has really skyrocketed over even just the last couple years. And so we're seeing these new innovative products. We're also seeing retailers doing some really great things to cut down on their food waste, reuse produce that's almost going bad, things like that. So really innovative solutions to these problems. So these are just a couple examples that we really like. This first one, Full Circle Feeds. So this company uses meat, vegetables, fresh food left over from a local casino buffet, turns it into dog food, and sells it. So really neat idea. You'll notice the purchase intent score is a little low there, but again, this is kind of a niche idea. Not everyone has a dog, so it might have limited personal relevance here, but a really high market prediction score. The second brand, Forager, was making juice, had all this pulp left over from the process, decided to turn it into a really delicious chip. And this third brand, the cool thing about this trend is it's even extending outside of just the food category. So this is a household product called Bees Wrap. It's an alternative to plastic wrap that you might use in your kitchen, made of wax and organic cotton and a couple oils, and it's compostable and a great alternative to throwing away all that plastic wrap. So with this one in particular, the purchase intent score was really high among our chief health officers, which was interesting. Again, kind of the head of household, someone who might be using this. Yeah.
Fabulous. So let's talk a little bit about agriculture, right? It's maybe surprising to some of you that the consumers are interested in talking about agriculture, right? We have regenerative agriculture here as one of the most powerful trends among progressive consumers driving opportunity in the marketplace. I'm personally wildly excited about this. I think that this might be one of the most important and exciting opportunities. So I'm only going to talk briefly about it, but if you're not familiar with the idea of regenerative agriculture, there's Rodale Institute is coming out with a new certification. There's a lot of energy behind this in the industry. Take the time to learn a little bit about it. In essence, the idea here is that many people don't realize it, but agriculture is one of the largest contributors to global climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. The last 100 years, people have estimated, the last 100 years of agriculture, right, have done more damage to our soil, to our water, and to our climate health than the past 10,000 years of human civilization. So in the last 100 years, agriculture has done more damage than we've managed to do as an entire civilization over 10,000 years. Agriculture is a major contributor to the climate change issues. At the same time, that being villain in the climate change equation, it also has the opportunity to be the savior. Our soils are effectively a carbon sponge. They're waiting. The natural process of growing food actually requires the use of carbon. We have the opportunity through agricultural practices of sequestering atmospheric carbon in our soils. In the process, some estimate potentially even being able to not just do less harm in agriculture, but actually potentially being able to reverse climate change. If we can convert enough of our agricultural lands to regenerative agriculture, we can get carbon back in the soil, underground, where it belongs, and potentially reverse climate change in the process. There's a lot of powerful ideas out there. This is a really, really powerful one. And it's a new topic. What's so exciting to me is that this is not something people are talking about with consumers yet. Not in a big way, right? It's not, if you walked up to an average consumer, they wouldn't understand what regenerative agriculture is. But in our concept testing, where we've got about 3 sentences to describe a concept, somebody might take 1 sentence to connect people to this basic idea of regenerative agriculture. It almost immediately resonates and helps concepts like Rare Essence, Epic, and Back to the Roots perform well here. Each of these products, great products. Epic, getting a lot of support from General Mills with their acquisition over the years, remaining very, very focused on biodynamic and regenerative agricultural practices. And Back to the Roots, having incredible success. If you guys aren't familiar, they have won over the New York public school system. They won in taste tests with kids, and they have now displaced certain Kellogg's products being served to New York public school system kids every single day. That's the largest school district in the entire world that is now serving biodynamic regenerative agricultural cereal. These ideas resonate, they're powerful, and they can have an impact on some of the most challenging issues that we're facing as a society.
So now we're going to shift gears into the second cultural force that we're going to talk about, which is modern life. So if that seems broad, it is. But the way that we live our lives today, we're busy, we're on the go, we're always connected. Compared to even just 20 years ago, those things bring with them many advantages, but also many challenges. So on a large scale here, we are talking about the need to feed a growing population of humans with a limited amount of space and resources, while climate change is happening on a much narrower level. We're talking about a busy person coming home from work at 8 p.m. and still wanting to put a healthy meal on their table without spending hours preparing it. So the following trends and examples are going to show you a couple of the ways that the effects of modern life are really manifesting themselves in consumer behaviors and demands.
Great. So one of those pressures facing consumers right now is this knowledge of climate change and the need to feed a growing population, right? So some have estimated, and I've seen this estimate kind of go back and forth, but regardless of which number you look at or which year, the idea is basically that we're going to have almost 9 billion, if not more than 9 billion people on this earth to feed by 2050. We're struggling to do that efficiently and well and adequately today. How are we going to keep up with it, right? For decades, the promise was the green revolution. The promise was more chemical inputs into our farms, and that we were going to be able to increase yield sort of exponentially and continue to feed people. We haven't been able to do that, right? What we're realizing now is the benefits that the green revolution did provide are beginning to plateau. And we're beginning to realize that there were many unintended consequences of what were otherwise very good-natured attempts to try and feed the growing population. All of humanity now really faces a challenge. How are we going to feed this growing population while our efforts to do so are being undermined by degraded soil quality as a result of much of this green revolution, a loss of arable land, water shortages and water pollution, as well as our growing demand for biofuels and raising meat consumption, which many will argue are both inefficient or inappropriate uses of farmland to grow grain crops to either feed animals or power our cars. Feeding more people with less land, with less water, in the midst of the global climate changes is driving innovation within our industry. This is a common point of rally for many consumers, for many entrepreneurs who are driving innovation. These kinds of products, these innovative products that are designed to solve these solutions, again, resonate with consumers. Here we see ideas like Thrive's algae oil performing well. We see Ripple, sort of a continued innovation in the nut milk or the plant-based milk space, here using and resonating very well with our Young Forever segments, using pea-based protein in a milk replacement product. And Lotus Foods, one of my favorites on this page, promoting in a very smart marketing way this idea of more crop per drop. Basically, it's a marketing way of talking about their system of rice intensification process that allows them to cultivate with small landholders, small-scale holders, allows them to double or triple yields while using 80 to 90% less seed and 50% less water and virtually no chemical inputs. So innovations like this, again, resonating with consumers, but also helping us to solve problems that we're seeking out there. It's this sort of innovation I think we need to embrace as an industry, but also think about and focus on as we look to scale and resonate with these progressive consumers who are going to give us an opportunity to continue to grow.
So if you walk down the aisles of Expo East, you would notice pretty immediately that snacks are hot. Snacks are everywhere. But there's also this appreciation among innovators in our industry that consumers really still do crave a good hot sit-down meal. And so they're really rising to the occasion with a variety of new healthy, quick cooking meals that feel convenient like a snack, but are also satisfying as a hot meal. So these brands are doing the grunt work for us. They're blending spices for meats and vegetables, they're par cooking grains or beans to make it really simple for people to put a hot meal on the table. And it's really interesting, we're even seeing frozen make a comeback. That's a category that over the past decade or so has really not been doing well, but natural and organic options are really kind of reinvigorating the category, which is really great to see. It's no surprise that a lot of the concepts that we tested here performed especially well among our chief health officers, the head of the household, who kind of takes ownership of really putting that hot meal on the table. A couple examples, this first one here is a quick cook quinoa cup. So they've blended quinoa with some spices and you just add water, it's ready in 5 minutes. Again, this concept really resonated well with our chief health officers. Second example there is something similar except with oats. So this brand is taking oats beyond breakfast and coming up with an innovative solution as a side dish for dinner, or you could add meats and vegetables to make it a full dinner, getting fiber and protein and all of those things. And then this third brand here, Sweet Earth, they're doing plant-based frozen meals, colorful meals. They're really bringing back some interesting flavors to the frozen category. And this one actually scored really high among our Young Forever crowd. So interesting to see frozen options.
Yeah. And obviously everyone probably heard that Sweet Earth Foods was recently acquired by Nestle. Powerful idea to see a company like that getting behind this idea of the flexitarian consumer and plant-based meals, really providing further support for the potential of that space. Grainfill is actually here at Expo if you wanted to give them a try. Just wanted to call attention to our new hot products space in rooms 307 to 310 in the convention floor on level 300. So be sure to stop by that new hot product space and give them a try. All right, so let's talk about the collaboration economy, right? This is challenge. We've been talking a lot about problems that the natural products industry is trying to solve. Many of us get behind the rallying cry of fixing our complex or maybe our broken food system. The attempt to do that is not the job of any one group of people. It takes a well-rounded approach to change the food system. It involves all stakeholders at every step of the value chain, from farmers to manufacturers to retailers to healthcare providers. Together, through collaboration, we can and we do expand organic acreage, improve access to food, create healthier products, reduce food waste, and basically improve our food system in all sorts of ways. The natural products industry is full of many outstanding companies doing really incredible work to solve some of these problems. But when we find companies collaborating, when we find people across the supply chain working together, that we find that the paved road towards the good food future is really accelerated and one that we can drive further down and faster. Great examples on this page of companies who are engaging beyond just their own work, working through their supply chain to improve things, are things like endangered species chocolates with their support of wildlife protection. We've got here one of my favorites, Titulia B Corp, which has vertically integrated their supply chain within their company in order to help them rehabilitate tea properties within Bangladesh and really connect with and engage and support the communities where their products come from. We also have Community Seafood, which has worked to create the equivalent of a community-supported agriculture, a CSA sort of system, with local community members and fisheries to help connect consumers to where their food's coming from, but also to support the fishermen in the process in order to, again, accelerate our way down the path of improving the food system.
So that brings us to our third cultural force. Just like every other industry, technology is rapidly reshaping the natural and organic marketplace. So our connected world is generating a lot of really new, exciting opportunities to explore and to learn and to innovate and to improve the way that business is done and to identify new solutions for these big problems that we face. And so we're seeing how technology is really affecting the natural products industry along the entire supply chain. So we're talking about seed technology, food tech companies growing meat in a lab. And then we're also talking about applications that involve consumers. So consumers being able to scan a package and trace where their fish was caught, on what boat it was caught, by whom. So really we're seeing technology affect the entire supply chain. So what we're going to talk about in these next trends are kind of a brave new world of food companies that are really disrupting the incumbents and have more potential than ever, more resources to grow.
That's great. So this is the awkwardly named trend, putting a face on our farmers and our food system. But the idea here is really connecting consumers to the source of their food in a deeper and a richer way, right? The rise of farmers markets may perhaps be one of the better indicators of growing desire for consumers to understand where their food came from, how it was grown, the source of it. Traceability and connecting consumers to where their food comes from is a trend and themes that we've been talking about for a long time. Yet what we're finding is that the brands in the business that are most progressive don't just tell you a story or put a star on a map and tell you where something kind of roughly came from or tell you the country of origin. Instead, they're working to really help you understand who the farmer is, right? They're connecting you to it. They're putting a face on the food system, right? They're humanizing those who have worked to create and to grow the product. I think that's really important in today's marketplace. We're seeing increasingly consumers want to understand. We're seeing brands being built off supply chain expertise. We're seeing brands being built off single origin sourcing of products where they can help you understand who the manufacturer, who the producer is, where the products are coming from. And sometimes it's that level of intimacy in an environment where trust is no longer a given and we really need to earn it, that connecting to consumers in that deep way is providing opportunities and helping us build brands in the marketplace. So those, again, that started dialogue about the possibility of changing our food system and connect you deeply to those that are involved in the process are the ones that we think are really standing out here today. Again, performing well with our concepts here. 1 Degree Organic, really in many ways, they revolutionized the idea of traceability, right? And they went not just to the point of telling you the farmer and which farmer grew it or what state it was in, but they take the time to produce videos. Every time their farmers change, they go out, they get to know them, they create videos, they put them on the packaging, they reprint materials and update their website so that you remain deeply connected to who it is that is growing the grains in their products. This is resonating. 91% chance of success in market, 21% purchase intent. We've got same being done in the olive oil space and in tuna. 32% purchase intent from Safe Catch Tuna. This is a brand that is working to address many issues in seafood by bringing transparency and traceability to an otherwise pretty opaque space within our industry. Again, here among our chief health officers, 88% purchase intent and 88% market prediction score and 32% purchase intent. Again, this idea of connecting consumers deeply to the humans in our food chain. That sounded weird, not in our food chain, in our supply chain.
So we hope that what you walk away from this presentation with is a feeling that the natural products industry really remains vibrant, full of so much innovation, and really poised for continued growth. As Eric mentioned, these progressive, naturally oriented consumers, we think represent about 40% of the US population, so there is still plenty of opportunity to gain traction among those consumers if we can remain focused on our industry values while we're pursuing those growth opportunities.
Oh, wait, I'm not done yet. That's a good conclusion. I do want to just close with a couple of things, right? We continue to remain wildly excited about the growth potential of this industry. To finish where we started, right? I think it's important to remember that as we pursue this incredible opportunity, as we pursue 8, 9, 10% growth year over year, right? As we push ourselves deeper and deeper into the mainstream population, it's important that we pursue this growth and these opportunities with integrity. It's important that we remain focused on the values that made us who we are as an industry. It's exciting to see that 44% of the population is interested in our products, right? Let's continue to pursue that, but let's do so with values in mind. New Hope is here to support you guys in doing this, right? Any of the tools that we talked about today, the next forecast, next concept lab, segmentation, all of this is designed to help serve the growth of this industry and the responsible growth of this industry. Maybe we can help you prioritize how you put your time and effort into new product development. We'd love to support you guys as you work to innovate by figuring out what new products you put in to your portfolio and also to help you grow your businesses in a way that resonates with the consumer that you want to attract. If you're a retailer, we want to help you figure out what kinds of products to have on your shelf in this increasingly competitive retail environment. All of these tools are designed to serve and to support you. Next trend in its service, as well as all of New Hope, is designed to help businesses. We really work hard to ensure that the tools that we offer can support this industry, whether it's a small business wanting to test 1 or 2 ideas, or a larger business looking to test a whole set of different ideas, right? I'm not here to sell anything, but people always ask, so we're just going to tell you, we do offer discounts if you want to leverage Concept Lab, if you want to see how your product does, if you want to use it to sell into a retailer or to help find investment. The tool is available for you. We've worked really hard to keep it affordable for everybody. If you want to talk about how you put this tool or anything else we have to offer to work for you and your business, just let us know. If you were scanned on the way in, the deck will be available by email for download within a week or so of the show. If you want it faster than that, email me. My email is going to be on the next slide. Email Deanna, either one of us. Bring me a business card. It doesn't matter. Just whatever you want. If you want this information, it's freely available. So thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for everything you do as an industry. And thank you for supporting our efforts to use business to make this world a better place. Thank you, guys.